Welcome to Bird Burger, where we talk about all things wildlife and nature oriented. In wildlife photography, we often spend a lot of money investing into our camera bodies and lenses, the big things. But we also spend a lot of money investing into the accessories around that, including gimbal heads, tripods, carriers, and so on and so forth. These things are not only important because they affect the quality of our image, but also because they affect our enjoyment of our hobby and our passion. So today I'm joined here by Noah Buchanan, again from Hunts Photo and Video, who's happy to talk with me today about some really cool wildlife photography accessories and stuff that you can kind of get your hands on to help not only increase your quality of image, but also, like we were talking about, enhance your enjoyment of the hobby. Noah, how are you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Jeremy. Great to be back here with you doing another episode. So really looking forward to this.
Yeah, most definitely. I appreciate having you on here. So just a little bit of a disclaimer for the audience today. For the sake of transparency, today's episode is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be so conversationally based like every other podcast we've done before, but today's a little bit more of a presentation about different pieces of equipment, how they could help you out. As mentioned before, we have Noah from Hunts Photo and Video kind of showcasing these accessories today for us, but I wouldn't bring them on here on this channel if I didn't think what they had to say was valuable or important. So I'm really excited to have Noah here, and we're going to be talking through a lot of really cool things about how wildlife photography accessories can help you out. So before we dive into some different pieces of gear, how important do you think it is to have wildlife photography accessories that complement kind of your main setup?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I may be a little bit biased because I'm definitely a little bit of a gear nerd myself. And if you could see behind me over here to the left, I have a tower full of camera gear, accessories, and gadgets, a whole Rubbermaid bin full of stuff. So I am definitely a little bit of an accessory and gadget nerd myself. And I think you can look at it kind of two ways. Yes, gadgets are great and accessories are great and can help you in certain situations, but they're not always necessary. I think there are things that can benefit you and help you in your photography, but at what point do you want to justify spending a certain amount of money on some of these accessories and some of these gadgets? Because there is a lot of stuff out there, and it's hard to really kind of determine what's going to work for you, what's going to be best for you, or are you just going to buy this, use it once, and it sits on a shelf with all of your other gear like half of my stuff does. So I have a lot of stuff that I've purchased over the years and don't really use that often anymore. And I try to find accessories that are multi-purpose, where you can use them for multiple things. I think those are the best types of accessories, and sometimes it can be hard to find those. But if you can find something that's going to serve more than just one purpose, I think you're going to find yourself using it more often. And that's what I try to do with a lot of the accessories that I have. They're not just for one specific shot or one specific style of photography. I can use them for a variety of different things. And I think that's really what is key. If you just go out and buy every accessory out there, you're going to end up like me and have most of it sitting behind you on a shelf or in a storage bin somewhere and forget that you have half of these things. So a lot of times I'll go through my gear and be like, oh, I forgot I had this, or I forgot I had this thing. So definitely try to focus on accessories that are going to be multifunctional. I think that's a big piece of advice. And you don't need every piece of equipment or every accessory or gadget out there on the market. There are some things that I think are very niche and only serve very specific purposes. And unless you're doing that style of photography or really need that for whatever reason, I think there's a lot of things you can get away with a limited variety of accessories and a limited variety of gear. And really today what I want to talk about is some of the things that I personally use with my own photography and some of the things that we also see a lot of our customers using that I think fit the bill in that kind of multi-purpose accessory where it's really going to be beneficial in more than just one situation.
Yeah, that's some really good stuff to share. It varies so much in price range. Like you said, you can get stuff that's really cheap, really expensive, and those things that are expensive, you really want to make sure you're investing into them as something that you'll use more than just once. Throw it in the back of the bin, like you said. I've definitely been guilty of some of that, but then there's some accessories that have been incredibly valuable, that I take out literally every time I'm out. Like, they live in my camera bag. So definitely there's a wide range of stuff. But then also, like you said, sometimes while you don't want to just stock up a bunch of specific things that you'll just kind of throw in a tub. A lot of times I wind up getting things for very specific purposes that really do serve those purposes incredibly well, and I almost couldn't do it without it, right? So it's kind of hard to balance that of like, when are you spending money kind of needlessly and kind of like recklessly versus when are you spending money that's very well kind of intended, right? So so I love your perspective on that. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe to start out, I'd love to kind of hear about maybe some more technical items that really enhance the use of the camera itself. So things like maybe gimbal heads, stuff like that. What's maybe a good gimbal head that you've kind of run across in your experience to throw on a tripod? What's kind of your experience with that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of gimbal head options out there, not just gimbal heads, but really any sort of photographic or videography head. There's a lot of options to choose from, and it can sometimes be a bit confusing. It can be very deceiving. There's a lot of different price points, and it can be tough to try to find something that's going to be beneficial and suitable for your system and the gear that you use. The head that I find myself using most often, I'm just going to unthread it off of this tripod here, is the Katana Junior from ProMediaGear. This is the smaller of their two gimbal heads. Even though it's not that small, it is still pretty compact compared to their larger version. And I actually have this one in the anodized green version, which I just like because green is my favorite color. But this gimbal head is awesome for multiple reasons. One, it's made right here in the U.S. and manufactured in Illinois. ProMediaGear is a U.S.-based company and a US-based manufacturer, so all their products are made here in the US, which is something that I really like and really admire. And the durability and quality of these things is rock solid. This is a really cool design. I haven't seen anything else really like this, where you have these slotted out holes that really are designed to cut down on weight and reduce weight. I guess they do add a little bit of aerodynamics as you're moving back and forth, but really the main purpose is to cut down on the weight of this gimbal so you don't have one big solid piece of aluminum. They've really done a great job cutting out a lot of that extra space. And these are great for any telephoto lens that has a lens foot. So whether that be a 100 to 400, a 150 to 600, or a long prime lens like a 600 or an 800, or anywhere in between, as long as your telephoto lens has a lens foot to be able to mount it directly into this base, this is going to work great for you. Now, if you don't have a telephoto lens that has a lens foot, I typically try to steer people away from gimbal heads, because there's really no good way to mount your camera directly onto this. It's designed for your camera to sit back a little bit so you have some control and some flexibility to move it around and follow your subject. And if you are a wildlife photographer using big glass, doing a lot of flight shots, doing a lot of following and tracking, having something like this is a huge help, because it takes all the weight off of your neck and off of your shoulders. It distributes it evenly on your tripod. And once this is balanced out and you have your camera level, you can move the camera and the lens with just the touch of a finger, and it's going to be very smooth and easy to follow your subject. So especially for birds in flight or any moving wildlife, any action shots, this is really key. And if you don't want to be carrying all that weight for a long period of time, and you're sitting at the same location, this is great, because you can be set up on your tripod, you can be sitting down next to it or standing next to it, and don't have to be carrying that big heavy lens or that big heavy camera around your neck the entire time. So gimbal heads, specifically this one, is the one that I use, and I am a huge fan of it. When it comes to a tripod and tripod heads, I always say invest in something good up front. A lot of times people will spend a small amount of money for an inexpensive tripod and an inexpensive head that's going to break down on them in a year, and then they're going to need to buy another one. And they kind of repeat this cycle till after 3 or 4 times of this happening, they end up getting that high-end tripod. So while these are expensive, and why it may seem a little bit intimidating to purchase something that expensive, if you are an avid wildlife photographer, an avid birder, and you use a lot of big telephoto lenses, I definitely think this is a very beneficial piece of equipment to add to your bag.
Yeah, I can vouch for that, what you were saying about investing in cheap tripods, them keep breaking down over and over again, cheap heads, and then eventually you just get the more expensive one. Like, man, that's what I did for years, is I kept getting the, $75 ball head, $75 ball head, next year just kept repurchasing it, and eventually I was like, yeah, this is not gonna work. And not only that was it, continually breaking down, I continually had to keep spending money, but it also didn't work as well when I was out in the field, so yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that. Like, a good gimbal head is a really nice investment, or a good tripod head with a good set of tripod legs is a really solid investment as a wildlife photographer. And like you said, birds in flight, man, it just opens up new windows of opportunity. So you mentioned not only gimbal heads, but you're talking about other types of heads that you can use as well. Do you have any suggestions in terms of maybe a different type of ball head or anything else that you could use?
Sure, yeah. So there is one other style head. I don't have it here with me, unfortunately, but it's called a Flexshooter Pro ball head. There is a similar product out there on the market that's been around for a while called the Unique Ball. And then Flexshooter came onto the market probably about 2 years ago. They're actually, I believe, a Hungary-based company, and we order from them relatively frequently because of the popularity of their heads, but they're all manufactured overseas. They don't have any U.S. distribution or anything like that, but we've found this kind of really weird niche attraction to this product, because what it is it's basically two heads in one. It's essentially a ball head and a gimbal head combined into one product. And when you're just looking at it, I'll send you a photo, Jeremy, to show everyone and put it up on the screen as we're talking about this, but when you're looking at it, it just looks like a standard ball head. You wouldn't really realize it was anything more than that until you start to play around with it and realize it has this additional feature that allows it to function just like a gimbal head would, where it's only going to pan left and right and tilt forward and back. So it's going to keep your axis center. It's not going to throw your axis off at all. So if you're using a big telephoto lens, you can still follow and track moving subjects, but you're going to keep that horizon line straight. Whereas with a typical ball head, the second you loosen it, it's going to flop around in any which direction. This head is designed to actually only allow you to pan and tilt when you're in that gimbal head mode. Or you can fully unlock the entire thing and it's going to function just as a ball head would. So something like that, again, is a little bit on the pricier point, but it combines two products into one. It combines a ball head and also a gimbal head. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds in a nice, more compact package. So I found these really beneficial for people who travel a lot and do both maybe landscape and wildlife photography and have a need for both types of heads. That's going to give them both types of heads, but only needing to bring one. So it's going to cut down on size, it's going to cut down on weight, especially when you're traveling. It makes it a lot easier. These gimbal heads are not the lightest things and they're not the smallest things, so they can take up some space and they take up some weight in your luggage. This probably weighs a good almost 3 pounds, if not maybe a little bit more. It's a very solid piece of metal, and it's going to add some weight to your gear and to your equipment. So if you can reduce that as much as possible, and if you're somebody who typically travels with a ball head and a gimbal head, this is a great product that allows you to use both of those in one actual product, not having to take both of them with you. So the Flexshooter Pro ball head is an awesome product. I wish I had one here to show off, but we'll put a photo up on the screen so everybody can see it. And we'll have some links in the description too for more people to go and check it out. But yeah, that's another awesome product for somebody who maybe doesn't know if they're going to really need a gimbal head, or somebody who just wants to kind of experiment with it, but it's going to work, again, as a multi-purpose accessory. It's not just for one specific thing, which brings me back to my original point of trying to find accessories that are going to have multi-purposes. They're not just for one specific thing, and I think this perfectly fits that.
Man, well, I think I just got sold on that. I need that in my life. That sounds pretty sweet. Yeah. I think one of the most annoying parts for me is with gimbal heads is the size, like you were saying. I love using a gimbal head, but I probably carry it with me maybe about like 25% of my shoots, just because, yeah, it's kind of a beast to lug around, right? And you have that awkward kind of shape to the top of it, that can be a little annoying sometimes. So I really like the idea of that Flexshooter ball head that kind of looks like that ball head, you know, but it doesn't quite have the shape or looks like a ball head, but can function also like a gimbal, but it doesn't have that annoying shape that's hard to pack into things. So that's really cool. And I definitely will have to check that out myself. So I've appreciated you guys at Hunts not only supporting the channel, for those of you who maybe haven't heard about it before, but Hunts is supporting the channel, kind of choosing to partner, sponsor with this channel and my main channel. I've just been super grateful for their support, but also they're a great company that I believe in strongly. They have some great representatives and people that are just willing to help you out, work with you, actually work in your best interest. So while they are a camera store, it's very, very caring and a personal camera store. So like Noah said, if you're interested in talking more about camera gear and what's right for you, you can contact him through my description link below, and he'd be more than happy to set you up with a good camera system. He's a great person, a great company that he works for, a company that you can trust, and I'd highly recommend checking them out if you need assistance in your wildlife photography purchase. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next Bird Burger episode.